everyone, this is Ellie Mae with Artesprix, and in today's video we are going to be creating a project with the Sublimation Canvas Tote from Artesprix. I'm going to be using the Sublimation inks. There are now two sizes available. You have a 0.5 flow ounce size, or if you are using this for many projects, you now have a 2 fluid ounce size that these come in. So I'm going to be using these to share a little bit with using it as a watercolor, and you can do all kinds of things with this, from adding it to water brushes, to adding to spritz bottles. There are so many possibilities that you can do with this. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at the supplies that I'm going to use today. We're going to be using the Artesprix Sublimation Canvas Tote. That is this, and with that I would also grab a lint roller. I have taken this out of the package, so I'll use a lint roller on it before I go to press to pick up any debris or fibers that have landed on it. Paper towels are always good to have on hand. I am going to be using a mixed media paper. This is the Royal Talons mixed media paper. Since it is more of a watercolor, we're adding water to it. I'm going to be using just a thicker paper for that. Copy paper tends to kind of disintegrate with your water, so you can try it, but just be very, very careful with that. Typically, the Artesprix Sublimation inks only require copy paper, but you can also utilize other types of specialty materials as well, such as the mixed media or watercolor paper when you're working with this. It really just depends on the project that you're working with. I'm going to be using the black fine tip Artesprix Sublimation marker. I have this in a cup, and you want to sit those markers with point down for about 20 minutes before you go to start using them, so that the ink is flowing, and then we will test that. I have a couple of little water palettes here for using and mixing with my watercolors, and then your selection of whatever sublimation ink colors you would like to use. You can use either one in the smaller bottle or the now available larger bottle. We're going to be using the Artesprix heat tape. This is specialized heat tape that withstands the high heat for sublimation. For this project, we are going to be using 400 degrees Fahrenheit for 45 seconds. And then the Artesprix protective paper. This is siliconized paper that is going to help protect the work surface of our heat press, whatever heat source you are using, again at 400 degrees for 45 seconds. So I'm going to be using this. It is very important to protect the surface from any inks that might come out from around our design. Then just some basics here if needed. I have a heat gun so I can speed up the dry process on my watercolor. Some painter's tape, I'm going to be using that around the outside edge so I can get a little bit of a border, and then paintbrush and a pencil. If you want to sketch out your design first, pencil does not transfer to the blanks. You do not want to use any other kind of markers or pens with that. That could transfer when you go to heat press it. So we're going to be using pencil if we trace out a design or sketch out a design, and then I just have some water here in a little pot. So let's go ahead and let's get started. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to clean out some of this. I'm going to flip over and open up my mixed media paper pack. And then something that I was taught recently, this is going to help me with an outer edge border afterwards, and it gives it kind of a finished look. We are going to, this is a 9x12 sheet of paper, and it's going to fit perfectly onto our sublimation tote that we are working with. So I'm just going to go ahead and tear this off, and I'm going to block out the edges of this so it gives us a little bit finished look. I'll speed up this process as I'm doing it. Once that is secure, and you can choose whether you do that or not, but I do like the finished edge that it's going to provide us when we are done, and it will fit perfectly within this tote bag. So you'll see that as the finished project, and you can choose to decide to do this or not, but I found this tip from a local artist that I follow. So I'm going to go ahead and get my paintbrush a little bit wet. You can choose to sketch out your design first. I think I might do either or. You do want to sketch with pencil only and not some other form of marker. You could sketch also with the Artesprix Sublimation marker. I'm going to do that at the end because with the water, I don't want it to bleed too much into the design. So I'm going to do the sketching with the sublimation marker at the very end after I've already painted it. So you can choose to sketch it out, or you can choose to simply start using your watercolor inks or your sublimation inks as watercolors right away. I think I'll draw one first and then we'll go from there. And here's a quick look at sketching out some different flower designs that I have been playing around with. And pencil is great because you are not committed into that design. You have a lot of freedom to be able to adjust and to play around with this. If you don't like it, you can set it aside, start over and try again, but just keep going. Have some fun, play around with it, and see what you can create. So you can go ahead, and one thing I did learn, let's see if I can pick a color. I think I've opened a couple of these. They do have a cap on them with the inks, so you can take this off. And then you do want a slicker surface, I find, for trying to do a watercolor, just so that you can mix some water in. It's not going to soak into like a palette or a paper. You can use a smaller palette like this, depending on what colors you're going to be using. But I'm going to do this, so I'm going to go ahead and open this. We'll probably use the orange. You can also take off the little cap very carefully. Don't throw that away immediately. I went ahead and just rubbed it onto my palette there, and then I can use that ink as well. So I can start off with that. I think for this one, I'm going to take a little bit of yellow. I've already opened this one up. Just want to check. So you can see that's in there. You do want to make sure they're mixed up well. And then you can take this. Keep in mind that with sublimation ink, your colors are going to be lighter. They will brighten up with the high heat and pressure when we go to press that. So your final colors on your sublimation blank are going to appear after it is heat pressed. So it is going to be lighter. And with paints, you can always start off with a little bit and then you can add more. You can't really take away, although with watercolor, you have a little bit more fluidity so that you can play around with that. So I'm just going to give this some water and paint it onto where I have my petals. You don't want it to be too pooling, but the wetter it is, the more the paint is going to flow. So we're going to go ahead. I'm going to start in the middle with a brighter color. I only did 3 leaves at the moment just to give it but you can just kind of touch it in here and then watch that flow. That's going to give you your gradient. And the brighter the color, this is with just a little bit of water that's in my paintbrush, it's going to be the brightest. You can see as I have the water on that paper, it just kind of flows out, and just let it go. Let it go. Let it go. The more water you add to it, the lighter it's going to end up being. And we'll work with that here in just a second. Now I can see this petal already kind of dried out. So what I'm going to do is get a little bit more water, not too much, and then wet that down. So you want to work in smaller sections when you're working with this, just because it will dry out depending on your paper too. So just kind of play around with this, spread it out. Oh, I don't have any water on that one. Go ahead and get some water. And just have fun. Mix colors, spread them around. Grab a little bit of yellow in here, get it spreading out. And just let it go. Remember, the pencil does not transfer. So we'll come in at the end and we will add in some black lines around our flowers if you choose to do so. And I still had a little bit of paint on my brush, so it gave it a little bit of a yellow tint. That's not too, I'm not too worried about that. I'm just picking up some color here with some water on my brush, and I can let that kind of flow out and graduate. So I'm going to do the same techniques And this is one of those things you just have to let it go, let control go, and see what happens. So much fun to play with. Again, the more concentrated that ink, the brighter it's going to be. You can see that here, and you can just kind of start filling things in. You can always add more water. You can also blot off your paintbrush to pick up color or pick up water. So paper towel is very nice to have, very handy. And don't worry about coloring inside the lines. These lines are temporary. So I'm going to finish this flower out and then we'll come back with another color. Now I sped this up. Watch how this color flows as I'm finishing out with the yellow. It is really cool to just play around with and see what can happen. Now I have a little bit of orange here. This one here has dried a little bit. I'm going to do some orange around there. I'm just going to mix in some water first. Again, the colors with sublimation inks will be lighter until you brighten those up with the heat and the pressure. The final colors show at the very end. And you can take pictures from real flowers and see if you want to try to recreate those. I am just playing around here. See what can happen. Now I'll go ahead and grab another color for this. I'm going to just check this one. I've already opened it, so I'm going to add some pink in here. And then paint in this flower here, and I'm going to do the same technique with the water and the inks. Just let it flow. It's really neat how you can see it pool out there. And here's the quick look at finishing out that page, playing around with different inks, taking color away, adding more water, seeing how it will just flow. And my friend Tracy calls it the ugly stage. You will hit a point where you think it is just ugly. Keep going past that. It's so much fun to play with these inks and just see what you can create with them. In the bottom red flowers, as you'll see here in just a second, I added a darker red, and it is less water, and to see how that would look. And then the second flower, I added more water to make it a lighter color, and you can see those final results at the end. Now you can play with it to your heart's content. Every one you do is going to be different. The more you do this, the better you will get. And walk away, come back. You may like it even more the next time you see it. So I'm going to let this dry, and then I'm going to come in and do the same sort of technique with the backgrounds using some blue and maybe a little bit of, we'll see what we do. But I'm going to let this one dry completely first. That way the colors are not going to blend together with the background. While I was waiting for those flowers to dry, I did come in and just freehand a few stems and a couple leaves onto the paper. The concentrated ink is the darker colors that you see. Now the great part about working with this as a watercolor is if you don't like something, if you think there's too sharp of lines, you can just bring in a little bit of water, add to that, kind of blend the lines in. I've done a bit of that, but I'm going to leave it as is. I want to see how this is going to turn out. So now I'm going to take some inks and we're going to create a background. And I'm going to just use this same palette. I have some green already over here, so I'm just going to, I don't think I've used the blue yet. Open this up, and your darker colors are going to be the most concentrated. So then the lighter the color you want, you can add more water. You can give it a gradient effect. And we'll just do the same thing. I'm going to wet it down, and then I'm going to add in the watercolor to give it a background. Just add in a little bit more of this right here. So same technique as I did before. Let's start over here. And I did let that dry. I don't want the colors to mix in together. So I can go ahead, I'm just going to pull this off of here. Let's start out a little bit lighter. So come in here and get a little bit more water in a paper towel. Lighten this up a little bit. And always can go darker. With watercolor, you can go lighter. And I'm just going to spread this out in here and just let it flow. Come back in and add some darker areas. And just continue until the entire background is filled. Now, once it is completely dry, I'm going to take this black fine tip Artesprix Sublimation marker, and we're going to do some rough outlines around this, and it's going to bring it all together. You are going to go through that ugly stage. Just keep going, and you may be surprised at the end. You can always redo this and have some fun. If you don't like it, just set it aside. Maybe you'll like it again tomorrow or the next day. So I'm just going to go through and I'm going to make some rough lines. I'm not trying to sketch it perfectly, and it's going to be a finished watercolor image with some outlines. Or you could leave this completely watercolor free. The pencil is not going to transfer to your blank, so you decide whether you would like the black outlines or not. So I'm going to time lapse this as I go through, and we'll just get started. Remember to keep your marker tip down for about 20 minutes, and then grab a piece of copy paper. Before you get started, go ahead and test your marker out just to make sure that it is working properly and the ink is flowing. And then we're going to go ahead and start with some outline. I feel the process of adding this black outline to the flowers really makes it pop, and you can watch here on the screen how these flowers just really come together with the definition and adding these little details into it. And all I'm doing is just sketching. I am not perfect. It is not perfect. You do not have to be an artist to do this technique. Just keep going, and I am just adding those details in with small marks with the black sublimation marker, and then you're going to really see it pop on the tote bag. Now, once you've finished outlining the flowers, if you chose to do so, then I'm going to use this painter's tape, and I'm going to make an outline around the painter's tape. And this just kind of gives it a finished look. I'm not even trying to be perfect. And then we're going to carefully remove that painter's tape. I'm going to do one more, kind of messy like. Not trying to be perfect, it's just a sketch line. And then I'm going to remove the painter's tape very carefully. You want to peel it at an angle so you don't peel the paper. I love the crisp line that this gives for the watercoloring. And even if it bleeds under in some places, we're going to go ahead and we can come back in here and again just do a sketched rough line. There we go. I'm going to cap that and put that away, and then I can go ahead and take my page out of my book. And I have my finished watercolor image for my tote bag. Keep in mind that it is going to be reversed, so when you're drawing and doing things like that, if you do put text on here, it does need to be mirrored. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my protective paper, I'm going to roll it out to make sure I have enough to cover. And roll a sheet out for the bottom and a sheet out for the top. And then let's first grab our lint roller. Set this aside for just a second. You want to make sure it is dry. And I'm going to take the tag off here. And then the heat press has been heating. It's at 400 degrees Fahrenheit. And we'll press it for 45 seconds, but I want to make sure to get any of fibers or dirt or debris off of this with the lint roller. And then you could put a piece of paper inside of it to protect that. I'm just going to grab this just in case so it doesn't go through to the other side. This is just a sheet of copy paper. I'll place that right in the middle. And your center point should be in the center of these tote bags. I'm in the handles. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to press this and pre-press it to get any moisture out. And that's also going to help me to get the pressure appropriate on my press, just to make sure that I have that. So I'm going to increase my pressure so it is medium firm. And pre-press that just for a few seconds. It's going to get any moisture out of that, and then I am going to take that back off, carefully set that down, and I'm going to put a layer of protective paper on the bottom of my press, and I can go ahead and secure this. You can take this off if you like. This paper is very good construction, and it held up to the water very well. Remember, these colors are going to brighten, and every one you create is going to be different. So then just determine the orientation. So this was kind of up and down. I'm just going to place that onto my design, or onto my tote bag. Should be about centered. What I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of fold this, line up the edges of my print. That's going to be my center point for that. And then I can just place this on here, and I'm going to secure this onto the blank with some heat tape. And since it is a watercolor or mixed media paper, it kind of has a wave to it. So I want to make sure, because I added the water and everything, I want to make sure that it is very secure, as flat as possible. So I'm just going to work my way across this, making sure it's flat, because I do not want it to move or have space in between. Okay, now once that is there, I'm going to secure this and set this on my press. Make sure that the print is centered, and then I'm going to place the protective paper on top of that, and I'm going to press that for 45 seconds. Movie magic, here we go. I'm going to let that release just a little bit. It is going to be extremely hot, so I have put my Artesprix protective pad down on my surface to protect my work surface. Just be very careful when you are removing this. And you can let that settle and cool for just a second. Don't want to burn your fingers. If you do have any of the sublimation ink that has come through onto the protective paper, you do not want to use that again, or it can get on your press or your next project. So you're just going to go ahead and throw that away. And then this is already coming up, so let's cross our fingers. Oh, look at that. Woo, I love the blue background. So this is what's left over. I love this watercolor background. And you have a custom unique tote. So in this video, we used the Artesprix Sublimation Inks that are now available in the 2 ounce, as well as the 0.5 ounce as also. Make sure to check out the video description for links for all of the supplies that were used in this video, as well as additional inspiration on the Artesprix blog and website. Thanks for watching and have a great day.